Okay, so week 12, again, getting there. Just another 2 weeks there. So today, we're going to be doing quite a few different things. We're going to be going through a new topic. It's the last class that we're going to have a brand new topic to talk about. Next one, we're going to have our test 2. And the following, we're going to have our project. Okay? So next week, the idea is at the beginning of the class, we're going to do some exercise. You're going to do some exercise for a test today as well, just to get you in the mood for the test, okay? Just to have a look at what are some of the types of questions that we're going to be covering during the test. So we're going to have some quizzes today, not graded, just as exercise. So again, you can get a feeling of how the test 2 will be about. But we're going to do a little bit more next class as well. In next class, for an hour and 40 minutes, another 45 minutes, we're going to have our test 2. Assignment 3, we're going to be talking about that in our second half today. I decided to make good use of our second half too, and I put together a bonus 11. So again, you can still get a few extra points there if you want to have that together before the end of the night today. I'll go through details of what is that about while I go through assignment 3 with some of you. The rest of you can dedicate yourselves to doing bonus 11. It's about the topic that I'm going to be covering today, plus a little bit of Azure, so we keep our deployment knowledge fresh in our minds. Okay? So tonight we're going to be talking about identity framework. Identity framework, we have already started using that. 2 weeks ago, we discussed about how to secure actions, controllers, how to create a user. Today, we're going to expand on that. In a way, we're going to create a CRUD for users. We're going to be able to create, update, and delete users. Okay? So you're going to create a full CRUD. You're going to be able to list all users in our system. And again, for each one, you're going to be able to create, update, delete, and of course, create a new one as well. So that's what we're going to be talking about through the identity framework topic of the day. Okay? And as I said, after that, we're going to be doing a little bit of a quiz, actually 2 small quizzes, to give you a sense of what to expect for the test. And yeah, that's it. And then we're going to do the assignment. So again, identity framework. Identity framework is the library, the framework, the framework provided by Microsoft for .NET Core that will bring user information to our applications. Okay? And again, we have started to look at that 2 weeks ago. Today, we're just going to go a little bit deeper on that. Okay, today we're going to be able to create a CRUD, create, read, update, and delete users. And create, actually, before we get there, we're going to create a list first. We're going to create a list that we can see all users in our system. And then we're going to be able to perform those basic operations in our users. Okay? I mentioned this a little bit about this before. We have a class for user management. Again, why is user management important? Because in all different systems that you're going to be using out there, they're going to have users. They're going to have users with different levels of access. That's why this is important. And again, with core identity framework provided, it's a ready-made and tested framework that you can use to perform validation, user validation. You can create your own, but you don't have to because Identity Framework provides that to us. So we could create our own users, our own logins but it's all given to us already by the identity framework. Okay? So Padlet is open as usual. I see a question there. That's, okay. So if you are getting that when you try to deploy on Azure, what is it that you need to do? You need to get more information about. You need to get more information about which arrow is that one. The problem is that when you deploy to Azure by default, you're gonna see those, what it's called a user-friendly error message. It's an error message that doesn't give you too much. It doesn't give me any details to go on here. I can try to search for that on Google. I'll never find a problem because that's too generic. This error is creating a friendly message for the user. It's not giving you details about what is the actual problem that is happening here. So what you can do, I'm not going to demonstrate this, but I'm going to just give you a hint of what you can do. I'll do that via a new post because I don't think that I can add an image here. Yeah, so I'm going to add this image. I'm going to add a second one as well. And I will just make a quick note about what is this. So on Azure, what you can do to get a better error message, and usually that error message, I can tell you this, check username and password, because usually it might be related to that. But what you can do to get more details about that error, you can go to Azure, on your app service, again, this image is just showing you a snapshot that I took, on the app service that you have created, go to the app service, go to configuration, go to application settings, and add a new application setting here to the list. Application setting called ASP.NET Core_detailed errors. Add that, and add that with the value of true. Not only that, and here is the second image that I posted there. When you are creating and you are adding this entry, again, make sure that the name is exactly like that. Make sure that the value you set to true. I think it can be true or 1, but set it to true. I know that this works with true. But make sure that you check this box, deployment slot setting. What is this about? I don't know, but it only worked with that one checked. Okay? So with this done, you're going to be able to get more details on the error that you're getting. Again, I don't know who posted that, but you're going to be able. Now, give it a minute or so. Try to refresh the site, and you should see more details about the error message, okay? So if you get stuck, let me know, and I will help you out afterwards, okay? But just, and again, if you have a follow-up question, let me see yeah. So give a try on that. Hopefully you're gonna get some additional information. Okay, let's keep going here. So what we'll be talking about today is available in the book on chapter 28. Okay? There's something about the book that I want to try today with all of you, because I think that we all, actually, I tested this 2 days ago. A student showed me that we have access to all those books online as part of Centennial. Who knew about that? That we have access to this book in particular, or a bunch of other books? Anyone? Nobody? Okay, so we have a look at that, because I didn't know either. I got to know that, and I might as well just let you all guys know, because again, we have access to this entire book there legally as part of eCentennial. Okay? Anyway, I'll have a look at that a little bit later today. Not only this book, but there is an entire, I don't know if it's all books for the course, but I know that this one is there. Okay? I wish I would know that at the beginning of the semester, but now I know. Anyway, chapter 28, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Going back to our MVC diagram, today we're going to, once again, put a series of different components together to create our CRUDs. We're going to be creating a new controller, an admin controller. We're going to be creating a new database model. We're going to be creating a new user model. We're going to be creating some views to be able to perform the operations, okay? So you're going to be involving all different elements here, okay, of our MVC diagram. We're going to start by creating an app user and a DB context. App user will be our new user that you're going to be, our new user class that you're going to be creating for this application. And DB context, you know what DB context is our bridge with the database, okay? Before we get to specifics here, I'm going to open the final result of this chapter 28 so you can see what is it that we are working towards, what we are working towards getting achieved today, okay? Okay, so we have a connection string here. The database that we're going to be creating will be called identity users for the sake of this exercise, of this demonstration. And I don't think that I have it created already. I'm creating this locally for now. Later, we will be trying this on Azure. But I'm just going to have a look at my local SQL DB. And as you can see here, I don't have this database yet. Because of that, I'm going to run which command here should I run if I have already the migration scripts. Which one should I run to get this? Updates, but specifically, update dash database. Do I need to inform the context here? Look at the models. It's a very simple application and set of models as well. I just have one context. So I can run update database without the context parameter because there's just one context. So I can do something like this, update dash database. When I hit enter, it will read my migration scripts, and it will create the database that I'm specifying here. Let's see. Okay, and now if I refresh my databases, my local database, you can see here, identity users is there. So our new database was not only created, but the tables should be inside as well. Okay, so all tables here. And let me see here. Let's run this. Okay, so there's not much to this application. It's really focusing on the CRUD for the users. This is, in a way, the front end. Front end has, again, not much here. We have two controllers. If you have a look, we have the admin controller and the home controller. Home controller has a very simple index that I'm sending a dictionary to it. Why am I sending a dictionary? It's just the example that was there. No particular reason for this. Now, what I'm more interested is in the backend. In the backend of administering users here. So I can say admin/index here. So this is a list interface that will allow me, this is a CRUD interface, that will allow me to create, and I'm going to create the first one here, first user. So I think there are some restrictions with capital letter. Let me create this here, and I'm going to use, let's say, ABC, 1, 2, 3, ABC. Just going to keep this password here available. And I'm going to hit create. And the entry, the new user has been created. There is an ID behind the scenes. This ID is automatically generated. This is a GUI ID. And from here, I can edit to make changes. And I can delete. If I go to the database that I have created, and if I have a look at the ASP.NET users, if I view the data, see, the user is there. And here is password hash. This is where the password's hash is saved. We don't save plain passwords. We just save the hashed version of the password, the encoded version of the password. I can delete this. There's no confirmation here, but that's fine. And if I refresh the data, the record is no longer there. So that's what we're going to be accomplishing today. I'll be walking through the first half of the application. The part that you're going to be developing in our second half of the class will be the editing. The editing side, I'll be walking through the create and the delete, and you're going to be doing the editing, the update as part of your bonus 11 if you choose to do it. Okay? Okay, so any questions? Any questions? Nope.
What's the difference between identity user and identity database?
Identity user and? It's the same. It's just that this database here, this identity database, is for the sports store. That's it. It was used for the sports store. The name of the database is not so much relevant. Well, the application needs to know which database it needs to store the information, but it's just a name. Just a name. The tables that are here should be the same as the ones that are here.
I mean, when we enhance our assignment to have multiple users, we don't have to create another database. We use the same database we use the identity.
Yes, yes. You can just use the same one. Correct. Just this one is because it's another application. We're using another database. Okay, so what I made available on Centennial, and it's already there. If you go to content, if you scroll down under week 12, you can see the presentation. So you see the steps there. But under source codes, if we scroll down to Sports Store chapter 28, I have already made available the first file here. This is just a startup file. It's a file that has already views, controller. It has some of this leg work that we usually need to do ourselves. I just put it together so you have a starting point, okay? You can use the starting points as I go along here, demonstrating. You can walk through as well as you go along. But if you don't want to, that's fine. You can just look at here, pay attention here. In the end, you're going to have a new file. which will have all of what I'm be presenting here, just missing the editing part, which is the second one here. So I'll be providing that. But again, if you choose to walk with me as I go along, by all means, do that, and it's more practice for you. And again, you can use this. You can download this one here and use as your startup project. Okay? Okay, I'm going to stop this one that is running. Because it was already running and I have another project that will be using the same port number, I may have to close and open this again, but I'll try to see how this goes. Okay, so again, this is a startup. If you can download this exact project for you from Centennial. So if you look at here, what is it that I'm providing already here? Just a few basic configurations under the startup. I'm adding the initial legwork that we usually have to do manually. I'm adding some views as well. I'm adding a view start already. I'm adding that has layout. I'm adding a view import tool that has the tag helpers. I'm adding a shared layout tool that has Bootstrap included there as well. I'm adding a home folder which has a view called index, so you are able to run the application as soon as you download it. And I have added one controller that has just one action, which is the index action. And just for the sake of example here, I'm sending a dictionary to this view. But again, you don't need to get bogged down by, okay, why are you doing that? Well, it's just an example that came from the book, and they said it like that. Again, I can send any kind of object to my views. If I look at my index, you see, the model is connected to a dictionary that has a string as the index and an object as the item. Okay? And it's just doing a for each here. Again, to be quite honest, I don't know why the book is using that as an example, because it's not focused on that aspect here. But the point is that we're going to take it from here and move forward. We're going to start to implement our identity database, our identity connection. So let's keep moving here with our settings. So here's what we have seen before. Before, we have used the identity user as the class that we would use to represent the users in our system. If we have a look at, for instance, at Sports Store, here's Sports Store. If you look at the startup, we are defining that our identity services is using the identity user. However, I had mentioned to you that we can create our own user class and enhance that. So we can create a new class that inherits from identity user, and potentially we could add more fields. We're not going to be adding more fields, we're not going to be adding more properties. We're just going to be creating a new class that inherits from my identity user, and we're going to be using this new class as our new user class. Again, we could be enhancing this class, but we're just going to be using and we're just going to be inheriting from identity user and using this new class, which in our case we are calling it app user. So we are creating this class here called app user, and app user will inherit from identity user. Again, why am I showing that? Because I want to show how can you potentially expand the basic properties available on the identity user class that comes by default. So you can inherit and you can enhance there. So what I want to show here is, let's create, what are we missing? Which folder are we missing here?
Model.
Root is here.
missing models.
We're missing models. Okay, so again, so let's create our models folder. And let's create this new class called app_user. So we're going to create this new class called app_user. So I'm going to add a new class. I'm going to call this app_user. And app_user will inherit from our identity class. So our identity user. So identity user. And of course, we need to add a namespace here. Let's see. So we need to add the namespace ASP.NET Core identity. So we can use identity user. We have added at the top there. And here, we could create more properties. We could expand this. We could do whatever you want here. Okay? But I'm just going to keep the basic inheritance here. And from now on, in our application, instead of using identity user as our main user class, we're going to be using app user in its place. Okay? So again, that's how you can enhance, how you can create a new inherited class from the base identity user and expand from here. Now, let's have a look at this. Our identity user class, it has a bunch of properties, a lot of properties. It has ID, which we saw that that big GUI ID. It's a unique ID, so it's not a number. I think it has 4 segments of 4 characters each, so it's quite a unique ID. We have a username, we have email, we have the password hash, we have roles. Roles, just to reconnect with that, in the last video of chapter 12, I go for about 18 to 20 minutes just talking about how to create roles with Identity Framework. So one user can have multiple roles. I can say that the user is, well, I can be a student and I can be a faculty. Actually, I am. Phone number, and again, those are the basic ones. How can you create more properties with what you saw today? How could you potentially create more properties than those for your users? What have we done so far? We have created our app user. We could add it here. We could create our own class, which we're doing, inheriting from identity user. And now we could create and expand this with as many properties as I want. Okay? So again, those are some basic properties. We're going to be using them to create updates, delete, because we're going to be using ID to delete the user. Okay? And we get to our second class here in our models. We're going to create our database bridge, our context. Okay? So let's right click there on models again. So let's go to add class. And I'm just going to keep this consistency here. So app identity DB context. So again, this context will be the bridge to the database. We have seen this. This is not new for us. I'm actually just going to copy the content here from our sports store. Again, a very simple bridge to get the identity database. I have to add the namespace at the top. Okay. I have to add another namespace for identity as well. Now, and here is a third one. So we have quite a few, quite a few namespaces to add to the application. But what did I say? I said that we are not using identity user. We are using our new user class that we have inherited from identity user. It's called app user. So instead of identity user here, I'm going to use app user. Again, our application will be referring to app user whenever I need to manipulate users in the system. Okay? So this is our second class in our models. We have the app user inherited from identity user. We have our bridge to the database, which is the app identity DB context. Again, you have seen this. We have talked about this before. Okay. Now what? What should I do next to be able to connect to this database? What is missing in the plumbing part of my application? Mm-hmm.
So you need dependency injection, and you need to add DB context.
Great, yes. So let's go to startup, that's correct. And we have to do a few things here in the configure services and one thing here under configure. Okay, so we have to, let's go here to the presentation. Well, actually, we have the connection string, but actually, let's do the connection string first. Let's address that already. So let's create let's set up our connection string. Connection string we set up in our app settings.json file. So let's add that to the application. We'll go to add, new item, app settings. And we're going to be using a similar format as the sports store. So we can go to the sports store just to get a similar format from it. We're not going to be using two connection strings. We just need one. And let me see here. I'm going to rename this. Okay, I'm just going to copy this and remove what is not necessary. So I'm back here to my users. It brings by default a connection string. I'm just going to get rid of that one, get rid of this, actually get rid of this sports store products. And I'm just going to keep one connection string here. My database name is called identity users. And I can change the name of the connection string. Again, just make sure whenever, hear this so a recommendation. Whenever you're dealing with connection string, again, copy and paste. Don't try to type passwords. Don't try to type this stuff manually, because it's very easy to do a typo, and then you are lost now, not knowing why your application is not running. Okay? So again, copy and paste is your friend here. Okay. So we have our basic app settings in place with a connection string pointing to a brand new database that is not created yet. Yes. You can. You can. Well. You can just, again, as long as you keep this consistent with what you're going to be calling in the startup, you can call this, let's say, identity. As long as you use the same thing in your startup when you are reading the connection string, okay? So with this done, let's go to the startup. And here we add a few a few pieces of configuration. We have to add our configuration class to be able to read. We have to connect to the database, and we have to add our identity services. Okay. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to declare our private configuration. Not private. Well, it can be private. I don't think it needs to be public, but add the namespace, configuration to the top, and then we have to create our constructor. So public startup constructor here, and we're going to be sending our iConfiguration. I'm going to call this conf, and via dependency injection, we're going to be able to set this up and say configuration equals to conf, and now we can read via configuration, we can read our connection string. Again, we are just doing the initial legwork to be able to connect to this new database, okay? You can have a look at our sports store to have a reference point. Let's have a look at startup there. And we have two things to add here to the configure services. We have to add the dependency injection here for the app identity database context. Let me just break the line here. I'm just going to set up Visual Studio to break the lines automatically so I don't have to keep scrolling. Okay, so again, we are here using using dependency injection to add the app identity DB context, which I'm going to be adding the namespace. And I'm going to be adding the namespace for use SQL as well. Which is the configuration. Okay, and here we have to make sure that this matches whatever is in our app settings. We have data, identity. So the second node in our path is not sports store identity, but just identity. No spaces here altogether. I've seen people putting space here inside this configuration, and you're going to get an error when you run the application. So we are connecting here the database to the context, to the app identity DB context. And last one here, we're going to be defining not the identity user. We're going to be changing that a little bit here, but identity role, we're going to keep that. We're going to be adding the identity services to our application. So I'm just going to, now, instead of using identity user, we're going to be using here our new app user. Identity role, I need to add the namespace, .sp.NET Core identity. And I have the main points here. I have what I need for our configure services. Okay. Let's see what else we have. Okay. In our configure services, let's use authentication. Now, one quick note about using authentication. It has to come that you didn't know. but it has to come before you call MVC. If you put this line after, you won't be able to log in. There is a particular order, because this is actually a request pipeline. Things need to be in order here for this to work properly. So if you put this line after MVC, you won't be able to log in, you won't be able to use some of the features of the authentication. Okay, either with use MVC, with default routes, or if you are using this kind of strategy that allows you more flexibility with your routing mechanisms. Okay, so again, before use MVC. Okay. What else we have here? Okay. So, with this done, we now have the context, we have the models, we don't have the migration scripts yet. So we're going to have to call the migration scripts and update the database. But let's do that after a 5 minutes break. 5 minutes, we get back to this. You don't have a group? Yeah. They're full in the sense that there were 4 already? Okay. Get one of the 4 and tell me which group I'll add to that. Talk to the members and I'll just let you know. I talk to those members and I'm going to go with this group here. Just give them the group name by email and I'll add you to the group. Okay?
For the project proposal, are you
Yep.
gonna check it with us in class, or is it just like a participation mark thing?
Just
Or
submit
like
to,
completion,
yeah,
just
just
for you to look?
for me to look, review, and provide some feedback if I find that
Because
it's
we
necessary.
basically just ran it through the project assignment PDF.
Okay,
So like,
so
so our doc was just saying like, because we were doing cuisine, so we're just saying like, oh, we add a CRUD, we put it in a drop-down list for the recipe.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Tell me,
And then go do the security stuff with the logins.
yeah, ideally you should tell me which actions views
Oh.
are being used
Yeah,
there
yeah,
and
yeah.
why you're using them.
Yeah, and then we're putting it into like the recipe list view and like the detail, or like the recipe list and the view recipe.
Mm-hmm.
Just as like another.
That's okay. That's okay. As long as when I read the proposal,
You know
I
what's going
understand.
on.
I understand what's
Okay,
going on.
okay.
What I'll be expecting. You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Group 7?
7. Okay. So I'll just make a note of that, and I will make sure that I'll add you to that. Okay.
Yeah, maybe we could use the controller. For one would work on the list, and the other would work on the actually, maybe
Okay. Okay, so here's what we're going to be doing next. As every semester, we are asked around this time of the semester, within 3 weeks, for students to do the climate survey. Okay? So I would like to take 10 minutes now for you to open your Centennial and go through the climate survey for this class. Climate survey is a way that you can have your voice heard about feedback about this particular course, how it was, how it went, what's your views on that. So again, very, very important that you get your voice heard, and this is the time. So let's take 10 minutes to put together the climate survey. I'm really hoping that we can get to a good percentage of the class, okay? So again, if I get all of you with this done, we should be done just in a day. So again, take 10 minutes here, just so you fill out the climate survey. Please, again, very important to have your voice heard by the college, okay? So you can do that on Centennial. If you log into Centennial, you can see the climate survey over there. Again, take for this course in particular, talk about your experience with the course. That's how they know what is working, what is not working, what needs to change. Okay, so please take this time to do that.
just meant to show that we're using the rows
And again, I get personally dinged if I don't get a certain percentage of the class done with that survey. So again, you don't need to be nice in the survey, but you just need to get it done, okay?
should the regular customer should be able to add recipe as well?
A regular customer, you mean someone that does not?
Yeah, without logging or whatever, just regular customer.
It's not logged in.
Yeah, so
Do you want that option or not?
yeah, I need to have a look at the specs because I don't remember all the specs on top of my head. But if it's not saying there clearly,
It's not saying
Okay.
clearly.
okay, so
I know
let me
that,
have a look here.
The admin, he can add, edit, delete, but I mean also the regular customer, should he be able to do that too or not?
Well, if it's okay, so let's see here: project proposal, project details. Okay, create, implement new feature. Create login capabilities, add security to create. Okay, add security to create, update, and delete the recipe. So you need security. So a regular user cannot do that. A regular user cannot, because you need to add security to those things.
A regular user cannot create,
No,
only create.
add security to create, update, and delete. So to perform any one of those actions, you need to be authorized. You cannot be anonymous. Okay?
So without login, all what will be displayed, home page and recipe list, that's it. No ad.
Correct. Yep. You can view the recipe. You can click and view the details, but
They cannot
they cannot perform operations in the recipes. Okay.
Like we want to have 4 items, each one of us should be one of them.
show you what I mean. So this is before login.
Mm-hmm.
So regular customer can also add. And if we looked at it in terms of security, they can as well add edit, delete, you know.
Got
I
it.
can remove this.
Yeah, I'll
Better?
yeah, because I'm asking here to move that to
Yeah.
the admin. So, and again, that's secured. So either you remove it from there or you only show if the person is logged in. Because you can do that. You can check if the person's in or out
Yeah.
inside the view. But you can just remove it
Yeah.
if you want. Okay?
Because the admin has different layout.
Yes, I get it.
The admin cannot reach this layout.
Well, but admin can always be back. Admin can just go to the URL and get rid of.
So you said if it's login, then
You can test that in your view.
but then if I do this, then when he comes to this page and he wants to add, he will not be able to edit or delete. We'll have to go back to that layout.
Yeah, so you can very much just get rid of this link and altogether. Okay, I'm going to take a quick attendance here. Alves, Alvin, Andre, Caleb, Daniel, Dominique, and Young King, Guang Bion Kin, How are you, Young? yuan. Hyewon Seok Lee. Hyewon Seok Lee. Ibrahim. Jeffrey. Jeffrey. Jim Choi. Yep. Josh. Kenny. Kinjan. Kishore. Baki. Naweed. Pritpal. George. Kiki Wang. Anne. Sarmad. Sean. Soyeon Park. Soyeon. Trong Jong. Vincent. Shinrong Lin. Yeseo Kang. If I did not call your name, let me know. I put it. Again, if I did not call your name, I think that some of you I may not have called correctly. So again, let me know. As usual.
Oh, can I check?
Yes.
Also, HY. Okay, I check. Thanks.
Okay. I don't think I got your name. I don't think I got your what's your name again? So I don't think I got. I don't think I get your attendance there.
Oh, no.
You did.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. For me, I just used.
Zingron Lin, yeah? Okay, thank you very much for the climate surveys. I've set up something on Centennial that will send a reminder if you don't check. There is a checkbox on Centennial to check that you fill out the survey. Otherwise, it will be bugging you to fill out, even if you have filled out. There's just a checklist there with one checkbox. If you don't check that, it will remind you with an email, so you can ignore if you have filled out already. Okay, so let's carry on here. Okay, so if we go back to the presentation here, we were about to run the migration script. So we're going to run both those commands so that we can, one, create the migration scripts, and two, run the migration scripts to create the database and the corresponding tables. Again, as I mentioned to you, we can use Package Manager Console to do that from within Visual Studio. We don't need to go to the command line anymore. So let's just do that. I'm just going to run the add migration initial. So I'm going to go here to the package manager. Again, you can find package manager under view, other windows, package manager console. Here it shows up, and I can add dash migration, and I can put the name of my migration script. It's running right now. As you can see, the folder has been created, migrations folder, with the scripts inside. Next, I can just run the second one, the update database. But let me see. I'm just going to go to SQL Server Object Explorer. I'm going to see if it's already there. If it is, I'm going to delete. So it's already here because I run this before. I'm going to remove it. So I can recreate by using this second command. I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to try to increase this a little bit. So update database.
What was the first line?
The first one, it's the adds dash migration, and then space, the name of the migration. It's creating the tables there. Great. So now if I refresh databases, it should be there. Identity user is there. And now we're going to be creating a new controller. We're going to be creating our admin controller and the corresponding index action and index view as well. So I'm going to go back to the project. I'm going to go to controllers. I'm just going to make some space here. This is too big. Let me just... I'm going to add a new controller. So I'm going to call this admin controller. This has to inherit from controller. And we have to add the namespace. I'm going to create our first action, so public view result. Let's create the index action. And I'm going to return a view. Now, let's take care of doing already the full work here. We need to, if this index is supposed to show the list of users, we need somehow to access here a repository of our users, okay? So you have seen before which class we use to manipulate users, to be able to create, update, delete, and get all of them as well. Anyone remembers what is the name of that class? It is the user manager, okay? So we're gonna remember, whenever we are dealing with a controller, we usually have private repositories. In this case, we don't need to create manually a new class for the user repository. We just need to declare, because this user manager is provided by Entity Framework. It's complaining here that we need to add the namespace. Let's add the namespace there. App user is our class, is our model class. So I'm just going to add users model, users.models. So we declare it here, but we have to use dependency injection based on the constructor of admin controller to be able to initialize our user manager. Again, this is not new. You have seen this before. I'm just going to go public, admin controller. I'm creating the constructor, and I'm going to say, as a parameter of my controller, I'll be sending I'm just copying this. I'm gonna paste it here. I'll be sending an instance of our user manager, which I have just renamed it here. I'm gonna call user mgr. And I'll say user manager is equals to user mgr. And again, we are using dependency injection right here to create our user manager. With that done, I will be able to say something like this: user manager dot, let's see if it's obvious here. So users, most likely dot users. Let's see here. Yep, I think it's dot users. So let me just confirm that. Yep, user manager dot users. So with that, we return a collection of the users in our application, and we send that to the view, to this index view. What's next now? We create the view. So again, we create the view. We're going to go to the views. We don't have in. Which folder should I create here? Admin. So add new folder, admin. And then inside admin, I'm going to create our new view. So new item. I'm going to find the razor view index. I'm going to keep the name. I'm going to get rid of everything there. And here, I'm going to link the model. So I'm going to say at model. I'm going to use the enumerable here, and I'm going to pass it. Pass what? What is the type here? App user. So I'm going to send an enumerable of app user. Now, it's complaining here because I have to do what to stop complaining?
View imports.
I can go to the view imports. View imports. So view imports, we add the tag helpers and we add the using for the other views in our application. So at using, and then that will be the name of our application, users.models. And now I should be okay here. Give it a second. So as with any enumerations any collections that we add to our views, we have to set, yes, we have to set a layout. So let's do this. So let's set the layout. I don't think that we have a layout for that here yet. Let's see. I think that we have an admin. Sorry. Actually, it's using, yeah, we just have a very basic layout. No need for another one. So I think that even the layout, so if we're going to be using the same layout, this is already set in the view start. So we don't necessarily have to do this. But what should we do? We should go through the enumeration. So we should do a for each. For each, I can say var as app user. Sorry. In model. So I'm going to loop through, and actually let's use user here. So I can just print out the user information, okay? I will already structure this a little bit better. I could just say at user dot, and I can look up the properties. I can get the ID. I can get the user dot username. and I can get the user.email. Again, I'm going to put this inside of a table so it looks more decent. So if I go to index, I'm going to add a table header. I'm using already Bootstrap, so this should look a little bit better. Well, it's doing an extra check here. If the model has no records, which means that there is no users in our system, it puts a message. It adds a message that says no users. That's okay. Else, we're going to do this loop. Now, the loop will be inside, it will create lines in our table. So I'm just going to add the lines here. Okay, just a few alignment issues here. I'm going to close the tr. I'm going to close the for each. And here's the else. And that should be fine for now. I will close the table at the bottom. And let's add already.
Do you have a copy of the index?
Sorry, if I have a?
Copy of the index file?
Yep.
So that we can follow you.
I'll be, again, once I'm done here, I'll be providing that, but I can upload it. Yeah. Slack. Okay, so I'm going to go to the web development folder, and I'm just going to drag it over. Just confirm here. Yep. And it's there. The file is there in the folder Web Application Development. Okay. Okay, so here I'm just printing out the information, but actually we cannot create yet. So I mean, I'm not even gonna run this yet. We need to add the actions that you're gonna have in this view. We're gonna have 3 actions. We're gonna have the delete, the edit, and the create. Okay? So delete and edit will be at the end of each line. Create will be just a button at the very bottom of the page after the table. Okay? So again, 3 actions. Create new user, edit a user, or delete a user. Edit and delete, we're going to put in context to each user here. Okay? So let me just go here. Just want to follow the logic path here. So let's do the create. Yeah, let's start with the create then. After the table, let's add the create button, the create link, linked to the create action. Okay, so we're going to create the create action.
how this line is working, even though it's not inside the form.
Because this is a link. Yeah, this is just a link. See, the create here is not submitting a form. You use inside a form if you want to submit information the user entered. Here, the user hasn't entered anything yet. It's just a link that goes to the view that has the form. The second view has a form, not this one. This is just a list. This is not, again, this is just a link to the form, not the actual form. Okay? Now, let's create our create action. So let's go back to our admin controller. We're going to have a new action here. I'm going to say public, view results, create, and we're going to return view. Okay, so with that, let's create our create. So I'm going to go back to views, admin. I'm going to create the create view. So again, just creating a new view here. Now, here's the thing. What is the information that I'm going to be asking the user to enter when creating a new user? I'm going to just basically ask for three pieces of information. Email, username, and passwords. So I'm going to ask for those three pieces of information. Right now, our app user class, it doesn't have those three fields. It has username, it has email, but it doesn't have passwords. So because we don't have a model that fit the bill of those three fields, we're going to create, and again, we're going to go back here to that thing that I mentioned before, a view model. A view model, again, it's a simple model that its only function, its only purpose to exist is to transfer information from view to controller, from controller to view. So we're going to create a new view model here, a view model for user, just to carry this information from the view, from the create view back to the controller. Okay? So we're going to create. So we create the action, we create the view. We're going to create the view model user. So I'm going to create here a view model. Usually view models, we create a folder to save them inside. You don't have to. It's just a good practice. I'm going to right-click on models. I'm going to add a new view models. Let me see if the original is, yeah, it's doing that. And here inside our view models, I'm going to create a new class. I could call this class user model user. And this class will have three properties. It will have a string for the username,
What was the shortcut?
prop, and then tab. This is one of the few shortcuts that I got to know. I got to remember. So username, email, and then passwords. Okay. Let me just make sure that I'm following close to the example. Okay. Okay. So for now, let's keep them just like that. So we have our model. Now I'm going to make my new create view linked to this model, because again, we're just going to ask those three pieces of information. So I'm going to say at model, and I'm going to say user. However, I need to add, I'm quite sure that I need to add, yes, this view models folder, the namespace inside our view imports, yes. So I'm going to say in our view imports using users dot models dot view models, and we should have this arrow gone. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to create, let's create a very basic form, no frills here. We can add nice HTML later, but let's just go with a form, a simple form here. ASP action will be, let's use the post of our create. So let's make it create. Method will be post. What am I doing wrong here? Yes, is that the problem? Let's see. Yeah. There's something else here. Now there's something else here going on.
It's not directly picking up, right?
Okay, you know what? Let me close it. Let me open it again. Sometimes, yeah, it's just Visual Studio glitching out. So it's good now. Again, if you get a glitch like that, just close it and open again. Okay, so we have three fields. We're going to create three inputs here. So let's make it, we're going to have input. Because we have our model, we can use which property here from the tag helper.
ASP4?
We can use ASP4. So I can say ASP4, and I can say username. And I'm just going to put a BR here. I can say username. I can say email, and I'm going to say email here, and I can say password. And I'm going to say password here. And with that, again, I'm just making this very plain and simple. We can enhance it afterwards. Let's just add what to finalize this form? A submit button. So let's put a button, type submit, and we're going to call it save. Okay, so we ask username, we ask password, we ask username, email, and password. We return a model. We need now to go back to our, to what? To create this create post. We go back to our, now we need to create the post version of create. Okay, so we go back to admin. We can go back to the list one inside the post here. So we can move there. So we can say public. Actually, let's decorate this with HTTP post public. Let's put it. Let's make this an I action result. It could be an action result or I action results because I might need to redirect to index or to stay on it if the model is not valid. So I'm going to create, I'm going to say return view. Okay, our create, what is the parameter that it will accept? A user. So we're going to have user, it does not have the namespace, so I'm going to add the namespace. And we're going to do, again, as usual, what do we do with posts? We test if what is valid? Model state. If model state dot is valid, then we carry on. Now, to create a user, we need a few things here. So I will cheat a little bit. And I'll have a look here. Our create action, I should have it somewhere. Okay, great. Okay, good. So again, we are getting this user, but this user has, in a way, it has nothing to do yet with our app user, okay? So based on the information being sent by this user, I need now to create an app user. So I'm going to declare, I'm going to say app user. I'm going to call this app user equals to new app user. And I can initialize its properties. I can say username equals to this user dot username. It's a common, isn't it? And then email. I'll say that it's user dot email. So again, I'm getting the properties of this user. And I'm creating our new app user. However, password is not dealt with the app user directly. We use the user manager to deal with the password. So with the app user created here, now we need to leverage our user manager to create the user. So we need to say user manager dot create async. Now, just recapping, create async, we have to use the await. And to use the await, we have to use the async keyword in our methods. And to use the async keyword in our method, because it's an action, what is the class that we need to use here? What is the type that we need to define this iAction as? We need to wrap it around what? Again, await here, we're going to send the user information here. So here's the user. Let me see. In the password is the second parameter. So I have it user.password. Now, again, we need to create a task. a task, this iAction result needs to be inside the task because of the async keyword. Okay? So here we are creating our user in an asynchronous way, and let's see if there is any testing. Yes, actually there is a test to see if the result is so we're gonna use this class, this type. This is, we are doing something slightly different from what we did initially in our seed data for users. I'm gonna now test if this result was successful. So I'm gonna say if result dot succeeded, do this, else we have to collect the errors. Okay. So because we are using here an iAction result, I can return a redirect. I can say return. In case it succeeded, I'm going to say return redirect to, I can say redirect to action, or I can say just redirect. Let's make it a redirect to action. And I'm going to redirect to the index action. Again, in this case here, everything went fine, and we go back to our index, which shows the list of users. Otherwise, I will have to collect the errors that happen here. There are quite a few possible errors here. It can be a password problem. Password does not have the right number of characters, the right types of characters. So this result will actually potentially have a collection of errors. Not necessarily just one error. Even if it has just one error, it's still inside a collection. So you're going to have to loop through these results to collect all the errors that we have. So let's see. We're going to do this for each here. Just going to try to open this up a little bit more. Okay, so results has a collection of errors. I'm just reading error by error and adding the errors to our model states error list. Okay, why am I doing that? Because the errors, they need to be displayed in the front end. So I'm just, again, collecting the list of errors here. And now, what I can do, the same way as I sent to create this user, I'm going to send it back to the same view, the same user. So, in case it fails, return to the same view, to the create view, with the same user information loaded in the view. If it works, it redirects. So again, two situations. If it succeeded, redirect to index. If it fails and it reached this point, stay in the same view and load this user information again so I can make the necessary adjustments. Okay? Now, let's improve a little bit our create. First is that I did not put any divs here to show validation message. So I have to put a div to show validation message. So it should be a summary. It should be something like this: div ASP validation summary equals to. I'm gonna put all or model only. To be honest, I don't recall what is the difference here. I'm just going to set as all. I think that the example has as model only. I'll leave it as all. So it will show all messages there. Now, again, let's improve this visually here. See, I'm just gonna copy this and enhance with labels and divs and all that jazz from Bootstrap. So I'm just gonna enhance this a little bit, put a title. So again, don't get hooked up in the fact that this is a lot of HTML. By the way, when you copy and paste, make sure that this is the correct double quotes, okay? So I just put a validation summary at the top to show the validation messages. I have added a few div to make it look a little bit better. And there is a create button. I can call it save or create. And there is a cancel that goes back to the index. Now we should be in a point to finally have this running and loading the information, actually creating the user. Let's give this a try. Again, so far, there is, aside from some details here about user, there's nothing too new here. We are using inputs, we are using a form, we are using submit, we are using a view model. Any questions? Okay, let me run this. Okay. Two one. What is that? Yeah, there's another project. Yeah, I was trying just to avoid having to close, but I guess let's just close it. And yeah, okay, let's just close it. Okay, so if I go to /admin/index, or I guess just /admin should work. Yep. So here's a table. Nothing yet. I'm going to click on create. It goes to our form. I'm going to try here to create another user here. And the password, I'm going to set to the same password here. I'll click on create. And now we have the user. Now, we need to add our delete and our edit here. Let's do this. For our delete, we either do after a break, or I'll let you do that. Actually, the delete is created in this file. Let's have a 10 minutes break. Once we get back, we see how we move forward here. Let's have a 10 minutes.